The armed services have and will continue to bury their dead with honor and dignity. Hello, I'm Lieutenant Buck Rogers, officer in charge of ceremonies, United States Air Force Honor Guard. The honors accorded deceased active duty and retired members and veterans who served honorably is conveyed in the rendition of the last salute, that is military funeral honors. The ceremonial customs of military funerals are rooted in ancient military usage. The traditions associated with the rendering of military honors are based on expedients used long ago on the battlefields in time of war. The volley fired over the grave was first observed in earlier days of warfare, when it was the custom of opposing armies to declare a truce so that each side could clear its dead from the battlefield. Accordingly, the volley fired 3 times was a signal that the burial ceremony was finished. The sounding of taps over the grave also has its origin in military customs. Since taps is the last bugle call the soldiers hear at night, it is particularly appropriate that it be played over the soldier's grave upon the beginning of the last long sleep. It wasn't until the return of World War II dead from overseas areas where additional elements comprising the funeral ceremonial team, as we know it today, evolved. The elements of pallbearers, color guard, and so forth were an expansion and were adopted by the military department. This expanded version of the military funeral continues to flourish in all the military departments. That's the reason why the elements of the funeral ceremonial team in a standard Air Force funeral includes pallbearers, color guard, firing party, bugler, and an Air Force chaplain if needed. We can't overemphasize that the honor guard teams must be carefully selected, well-trained, and equipped, and adequately staffed. The rendering of military honors is one of the most sensitive and important functions that we are called upon to perform, and we must do it well. It's essential that military honors are provided in a highly professional and dignified manner. Without exception, we must make sure that each base honor guard represents the Air Force in the best possible manner in this most sensitive program. The funeral you are about to observe is intended to demonstrate to you the proper rendition of military honors at a graveside service. You will observe the actions and movements of the funeral ceremonial team elements. This presentation will hopefully give you the necessary insight on how you as an honor guard member should conduct your duties. However, please keep in mind that honors in this funeral are performed by the elite United States Air Force Honor Guard, assigned to Washington, D.C. Certain movements, marching and walking techniques, are unique to the United States Air Force Honor Guard and are not meant or intended for you to adopt or achieve their level of proficiency. Rendering honors is a full-time job for this honor guard. When they aren't providing honors, they are training. Their performance should be your cue in gaining full knowledge of what is to be done, when, where, and how it's to be done. The elite United States Air Force Honor Guard also has its own organizational uniform, which is quite different from the standard base and Major Command Honor Guard uniforms. In addition to this presentation, you may obtain detailed training in the step-by-step movements and procedures for each Honor Guard element by reviewing and using the slide tape training program that is available through your local base audiovisual office.
Note how the Honor Guard members exercise proper decorum in preparing and placing themselves in formation for their march to the grave. Once in position, the NCOIC gives the command, forward march. In their march to the grave, note how the Honor Guard members break off. The firing party is now going to its proper location. Additionally, the pallbearers open ranks and place themselves at each side of the curb. The color guard proceeds to its proper location at the foot of the grave, while the bugler goes to his respective location where he'll sound taps. Once all Honor Guard members have placed themselves in proper position, They execute the necessary movements and await the arrival of the funeral procession at the gravesite. As the procession approaches, the pallbearers execute a hand salute while the hearse passes, and they hold that position until the hearse has come to a complete stop. The funeral director then opens the hearse door, and the pallbearers simultaneously place themselves in the center of the roadway, execute the proper movements, and proceed toward the hearse. They then execute appropriate movements in positioning themselves to remove the casket from the hearse. Again, the movements executed by the United States Air Force Honor Guard are unique to that honor guard only. The two pallbearers closest to the hearse make sure that the flag properly drapes the casket and will pull the casket out of the hearse and pass it to the other pallbearers. As you can see, these procedures are done slowly and carefully. The pallbearers now execute 3 steps back to adequately clear the hearse. They will execute the proper turn and will then proceed to the gravesite. If the decedent is entitled to an aerial flyover, the aircraft will fly over the grave in the missing man formation, while relatives and friends are proceeding to the gravesite. The procession then continues to the gravesite. This procession is preceded by the funeral director and the clergyman that will officiate at the graveside service. Note how the NCOIC renders a hand salute as he passes by the flag-draped casket in positioning himself at the foot of the grave. The funeral director stops the procession while the casket is being properly placed on the lowering device. And the pallbearers raise the flag to waist-height level and hold it taut. Once this has been done, the funeral director then proceeds in having relatives and friends take their seats. Once seated, the clergyman begins to read the prayers, and during the ceremony it is common for the clergyman to sprinkle earth on the casket. In doing so, the two pallbearers closest to the head end of the casket raise the flag for that purpose. The clergyman many times gives a blessing by raising his hand, which is also a signal for the conclusion of the service. The funeral director then alerts the family to the firing of the volleys, which will now be executed by the firing party. The bugler will now sound taps. At the conclusion of taps, the bugler will render a hand salute. The pallbearers will now fold the flag. Note how carefully the first fold is made to ensure both sides are even and the flag is held as taut as possible in making the second fold. This will permit the proper triangular fold, whereby in making the final fold there will be no red portion of the flag showing. While the flag is being folded at approximately halfway down the casket, the NCOIC moves from his position to place himself at the head end of the grave to receive the flag from the pallbearer at the head end of the casket. Note, the last two pallbearers are to make sure that the folded flag is tight and smooth, having no wrinkles, and there is no red portion of the flag showing. The flag is then presented to the NCOIC. The pallbearer renders a slow hand salute and will execute the appropriate movement in returning to his original position. The NCOIC then proceeds to the next of kin, presents the flag, and makes a statement such as, "This flag is offered by a grateful nation in memory of the faithful service performed by your loved one." He then renders a slow hand salute and returns to his original position. Relatives and friends should then leave the gravesite. However, if they linger for whatever reason, the honor guard may execute the proper movements and leave the grave. They then proceed to the original assembly point by regrouping in the required formation at some suitable point in the roadway.
We who came home must never forget those who could not.